We live.
We sure are. We are live. Welcome to the Pistons Talk Podcast. You already know who I am. You already know who Pistons Talk is. That's Anthony over there. Anyways, let's get this started. So I was at Kalamazoo Central on Friday. I was broadcasting one of their games. Yeah. No, Kalamazoo Central, pretty cool. Home of the great Isaiah Livers. First things first, the cool thing about this game was this is like the first high school game that I've ever broadcasted where the ref has a microphone on the field. Really cool. That's not the point of this, though. This is a Pistons podcast, so I'm about to make the point. I'm talking to somebody from the athletic department at Kalamazoo Central, and I asked them, how cool is it, or what are your thoughts on Isaiah Livers playing for the Detroit Pistons? He responds with, well, he's not Greg Jennings playing for the Packers. And I don't know about you guys or even you, Anthony, how you feel about it, but like, doesn't it feel a little insulting to say that about Isaiah Livers? Like, not even to really acknowledge him playing for the Pistons, just to say he's not Greg Jennings.
Yeah, when you told me that before we went live, I was like, that's an insult, like straight up. But like, to be fair, Isaiah Livers hasn't really played a whole lot in a Pistons uniform. So, I mean, until he does something, I don't really think the casuals are going to know who he is or even kind of give him that praise.
Yeah, but I just thought, and I told him this, I told the guy this, I'm like, he's from Kalamazoo Central. You're a member of the school. Like, it's still pretty cool. And he's like, yeah, look, he told me straight up, look, I don't like basketball. I never played it. I never coached it. I've never done anything with the sport. Isaiah Livers, nice kid. That's it. He's a nice guy. That's it. And that was the end of the conversation. I just thought, like, if someone from my school had made a professional sports team, I would talk about it more than I talk about. I didn't even go to Kalamazoo Central. I'm just from the same city as Isaiah Livers, and I talk about it a ton. Like, I think it's the coolest thing in the world. You can make fun of it if you want for it, too. It's okay.
Yeah. Welcome to the Isaiah Livers podcast, hosted by Lance Caparosi and Pistons Talk.
Yeah. That's what it needs to be, the Isaiah Livers podcast. But for real, though, let's get into this. Looks like Duren won't be playing in the G League this year. I was way off.
I told you.
Yeah, you did tell me. So Troy Weaver said, I believe it was on 97 the ticket or something.
Mm-hmm.
He said at the moment he doesn't see him as a G League guy, but rather a NBA guy right away. I slept on Duren. I watched him a little bit at Memphis. I thought he was pretty good. Thought there was a few things he needed to work on. But if you remember on one of the other podcasts we've done, I said that Jalen Duren is the next Dwight Howard. And I would rather see that than Duren play in the G League. So I'm willing to eat my own words. I will buy a Duren teal jersey. Probably going to put the order in for it either tonight or tomorrow. And I will wear it on the podcast when he gets here. I owe him that. I just thought about it. Like, Duren is so physically imposing right now as just an 18-year-old that it might be a waste of time for him to bang on nobodies in the G League. Like, what is he going to learn? Like, we saw it in the summer league in some matchups. He was just already so physically dominant over some guys that have played in the NBA or have made NBA teams. And I don't know. I'm on the school of thought now thinking that Duren would just waste away in the G League.
Yeah, I mean, I thought of a couple different topics in my head, like when you sent the prep over last night, and I'm thinking about Jalen Duren and where he was drafted, and I thought about Andre Drummond when he got drafted. It's like, could you imagine saying, "Hey, Drummond, you're going to go play in the G League because we don't feel you're ready"?
Yeah, I don't know though. I mean Andre Drummond was really raw though, but he was able to just out jump and out rebound, and he was basically out able to hustle people. Like, he wasn't like skill wise, he wasn't ready for the NBA, but you just couldn't deny the athleticism, what he could bring to a team.
Well, here's my other point. Jalen Duren is better right now than Andre Drummond was as a rookie.
100%.
He's a better basketball player right now. So I never thought he was going to be in the G League. I was just going to let you have your shine with the hot take. If you were right, we'd give you the praise. But when you were wrong, we're going to come on this podcast and let you know that you were wrong. Like, I knew he was not going to be in the G League. I knew how high Troy Weaver was on him. I mean, there were reports saying if the Pistons did fall in the draft around that 6 to 7 range, they were going to go swing for the fences and draft Jalen Duren. So it kind of shows you how much faith Troy Weaver does have in this young man. And I mean, hey, I'm sure the whole chat is roasting you right now.
Yeah, that's funny. Do you really think, like, if the Pistons had fallen to 6 or 7 and say Benedict Mathurin was there, because they were reported like Benedict Mathurin too, that they're taking Duren over Benedict Mathurin? Like, you believe that?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I kind of have PTSD of Arizona guards, Arizona players. So, I mean, last Arizona player didn't work out too well for the Pistons, if you know who I'm talking about, Stanley Johnson. But yeah, I mean, Benedict Mathurin is going to be a player. I mean, I'm joking. Don't take that to heart. Don't like clip it out of context. Like, I love Benedict Mathurin, but I mean, something about Arizona players calling out LeBron James when they get drafted, I just don't get it.
You know, I get, you said PTSD of Arizona players. I get PTSD over Arizona players and foreign-born players drafted to Detroit, because they never seem to work out, man, other than Mehmet Okur and maybe Carlos Delfino, but it doesn't really seem like they work out too well in Detroit. So, but I was wrong about Duren. Feel free to roast me in the comments. I was wrong. I mean, when you know you're wrong, when Troy Weaver just comes out on a radio station and says, look, it's not happening, and it feels like he's talking to you directly. That's what it felt like. I was scolded by the master Jedi, Troy Weaver. There we go. The next piece of this first opening segment is Ben Wallace was spotted at a Lakers practice. This feels wrong and it feels dirty. Like, he's the last Detroit Piston that should ever be in Los Angeles to work with the team, talk with the coaches, whatever he was doing. He's the last Piston, and I don't know. I feel like it's wrong. What do you feel about Ben Wallace being in Los Angeles at a Lakers practice? Is this anything we should be monitoring, or just him hanging out with Darvin Ham?
So at first I was like, he's just hanging out with Darvin Ham, right? But then I remembered Rasheed Wallace backed out of the assistant coaching job. And currently Ben Wallace right now for the Detroit Pistons is just an advisor. He's not really, I'm sure he's getting paid, but it's not like he's an assistant coach or anything.
Yeah.
Makes me think Darvin Ham is recruiting anybody and everybody from that 2004 squad. Now, I could be overreacting. I'm the overreact king. You already know that. So if Ben Wallace goes to the Lakers on the coaching staff, my Piston fandom and me will be upset, but I'll be extremely happy for Ben Wallace to get some kind of coaching job, because we know that he can't reach out to Chauncey. He's a head coach. Tayshaun's in Memphis' front office as an assistant GM. I believe Rip is just doing, I don't even know what Rip is doing, honestly. Rip, what are you doing? We don't know.
He's doing what we're doing, just on a larger scale.
Literally.
Do you think Ben Wallace, does he really want to be a basketball coach in the NBA? I just felt like, I don't know, when I see him and when I hear about him, it just kind of feels like he wants to just be around the team. I mean, I guess be an advisor like he is right now. I don't even really know what an advisor does for a professional basketball team, but Ben Wallace does it. I don't know. I don't see him as a coach, though, in the NBA.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've seen with his advisor role is basically just, like, there were pictures last year of him working with Isaiah Stewart, like showing him how to defend, teaching him like how to time blocks and stuff like that. I don't know how involved he is anymore. That was last year. I haven't really seen too many photos this training camp of him working with players. So he could be looking to get into that assistant coaching role. I mean, I think it's a really good place for him. He's always been involved some way with the NBA, whether it was, being a co-owner with the Grand Rapids, was it the Drive?
It was with the
now it's the Grand Rapids Gold because the Nuggets transferred over there after we bought the Phoenix G League team, which is Motor City Cruise now. So I mean, I think Ben Wallace does want to get involved into maybe the coaching side, maybe kind of more of a teacher role. So it wouldn't surprise me to see his name and maybe assistant coaching, hires within the next couple of years.
See, I just think he wants to make passive income and not really work for it. That's like the feeling I get with Ben Wallace. I'm with him on that. If you tell me I can make money without doing anything, I'm all in. I'm all in. And I feel like Ben Wallace is the same way. I don't know why, but I just do.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of Pistons fans, if he went to the Los Angeles Lakers with Darvin Ham, I know there are the Twitter people out there. They're like, burning my Ben Wallace jersey right now. Like I can already see it. Like, but hey, man, if he wants to get into coaching, I'm all for it. But I know a lot of Pistons fans would be pretty damn upset if that did happen.
Could you imagine seeing like NBA coaching bench just with the greatest five alive on it? You have Chauncey, head coach, Rip, Ben, Tayshaun, Rasheed, all on the bench with them. I wonder how good those guys would do as just like as a coaching team.
I think Rasheed, like, probably out of all of that starting five from 2004, I think he has the most experience because he was an assistant with the Pistons in 2013-14. He went to Memphis with Larry Brown to be an assistant with Penny Hardaway. He was apparently going to do the Lakers job, but who knows what happened with that. I mean, Chauncey, first year in Portland, I think we can all agree, injuries happened. He kind of underperformed, but they're looking to make the playoffs. So we'll have to see how Chauncey does this year. But I mean, it's kind of cool seeing them all be involved in whether it's front office roles or coaching.
Yeah, no, for sure. It really is. Yeah, and also Rasheed Wallace, he's a head coach of some high school teams down in North Carolina.
That's right. I forgot about that.
I don't know how well they did though, but you got Rasheed Wallace, so that's pretty cool. He probably got a few techs on the benches, on the sidelines in those games. All right, this weekend news: no jersey number for Kemba Walker. Yeah, not surprised. I mean, we've talked about him a few times on this podcast. You and I both agree he's probably just sitting on the bench. Like, there's no trade, no wave coming. He's just going to collect a check. It's kind of sad, though. Kemba Walker, man. No jersey number in Detroit. What a fall for Kemba Walker.
Yeah, man. When I saw that, I was just like, usually even Carmelo Anthony got a number from the Hawks, if you remember. Like, the Detroit Pistons, like, when they made that trade, they're like, nah, bro, we good. Like, we don't even want you on this basketball team. Only reason why is because, we were helping you out, get Jalen Brunson so we could get Jalen Duren. It's just like, I think it's funny. But at the same time, I think fans need to understand and realize Kemba Walker isn't the same Kemba Walker that you saw at UConn. He's not the same Kemba Walker he was in Charlotte. He's not even the same Kemba Walker you saw in Boston. He's a shell of himself. If I were to tell you right now, Corey Joseph is in better shape than Kemba Walker, you would probably laugh at me, but that's the sad truth. Kemba Walker is not the same player. He couldn't even probably play a back-to-back right now. That's how bad his injuries have kind of held him back over the past year or so. So the Pistons do have until, I believe, the 17th to waive them if they want to, which I think that's probably what's going to happen. He's not going to report to training camp. He's not going to be on the Detroit Pistons bench. He's not going to be a part of the Detroit Pistons at all. He's just going to be in that dead cap space with DeAndre Jordan and all those other guys that we still have on there, like Dwayne Dedman. Shout out to Dwayne Dedman. Like, our dead cap space is literally a starting five. Like, that's how bad it is, man. Like, honestly, but the fact that they didn't offer him jersey number is complete savage mode by Troy Weaver and the Pistons.
We're in a crazy time in the NBA now, crazy time in NBA history, where Corey Joseph is a better basketball player than Kemba Walker. Never thought we'd ever say that, but we're at that time in the NBA history right now that Corey Joseph, Kojo, fan favorite in Detroit, is better than Kemba Walker. It's crazy.
Draymond, better watch what you say.
Well, look, if it sparks something in Kemba Walker where he's like, look, this dude was trolling me on a YouTube channel. I had to get my knees right. I'm going out there to ball. Awesome. I would love to see it. I don't think it's ever going to happen. Corey Joseph is a better basketball player than Kemba Walker. Dude, Saban Lee's a better basketball player than Kemba. Buddy Boeheim.
No, don't. I mean, Dance King, though. I don't know if you saw him at open practice.
I did not see him dancing. What is this thing about open practice, though? How did you feel about it? I know we were talking earlier, like I didn't go, you didn't go, but we saw a little bit about it. Let's talk a little bit about open practice for a minute. Like, what, I don't know how much you saw of it, though. I guess I should, start with that.
I mean, I really didn't see too much of it. I think it's something that's really cool that the Pistons do every year. Right before they play their first preseason game, they allow fans to watch the team practice. And I will say that was probably the most packed I've seen an open practice in recent memory. There were actually fans there watching. I mean, I went a few years ago when there was maybe less than 100 people in there. But granted, we weren't really a good basketball team. I think our best young player was Luke Kennard at the time, last time I went. But I mean, there's a lot of excitement in this city right now with Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey, and fans are coming out for it. I did see reports from James Edwards III that Killian Hayes was really aggressive out there,
Saw that.
and Cade was all over him, like just defensively. Like I think Cade is really challenging Killian to be more aggressive, and I'm here for it.
Did you see that block that Cade had on Killian, then took it down and scored?
Yeah.
He dude, they're gonna break Killian's confidence, man. Whatever confidence he just got, that block wasn't even just a block. It was, I'm putting you in your place. I want you to be good, but don't try to be better than me. I am Cade. This is my team, Killian. Fall in order. That's what that block said to me. I don't know. I thought the open practice was pretty cool. I was trying to see I don't know if there's like a roster sheet, but I thought it was interesting that Marvin Bagley was playing with Saddiq Bey, Cade, and Jaden Ivey, and Isaiah Stewart seemed to be running with the bench unit of Killian Hayes, Hami, and I think maybe Isaiah Livers or something. But interesting that, I mean, am I reading like you say you're the overreacting king, but I mean, are you overreacting to Isaiah Stewart playing with Killian and Hami on like the gray team in that open practice, or is that not an issue for you?
I mean, you could overreact to it. You could say, okay, Marvin Bagley is in your starting five, and Isaiah Stewart, who's been a starting center, is playing with the bench unit. Yeah, there's something there. You never know. I mean, maybe Marvin Bagley has had a very good training camp, and Dwayne Casey would rather have a lob threat in the starting lineup with your two guards, which makes a whole lot of sense offensively. Because nothing against Isaiah Stewart, he's just not a lob threat. He's more of a throwback in terms of big men. I mean, we talk about 2000 and 90s basketball all the time. Isaiah Stewart is an ultimate throwback. Back to the basket. He can stretch the floor a little bit, but he's not going to be, dunking. It's not like a Christian Wood catching lobs like crazy. I think you can read into that, and that's very interesting that Marvin Bagley was in the starting lineup instead of Isaiah Stewart.
Yeah, that was the thing I was looking for. And then I think it was Duren that was playing with the blue team, but I could be wrong. I thought that was Duren out there. I believe is he number 0? Is that what he's with? Okay, so then it was definitely him out there. It kind of looked like Nerlens Noel because I think they both are sporting longer hair now. But it was definitely Duren if he's number 0. So Duren was out there too. Maybe he was with the great team. I thought it was kind of cool that Saddiq Bey was wearing pants, but there was another report out of the open practice that Saddiq Bey looked like some type of evolved version of his first year and second year, and he looks to be more like the complete version of a player. I don't know if it was Omari Sankofa or James Edwards that tweeted out, but it was something along those lines of Saddiq Bey looking more like a complete version and some version of himself between first and second year.
Yeah, I mean, I've told you before, I think there's a lot of untapped potential in Saddiq. I mean, like I mentioned Kawhi, and your eyes got so big about a month ago when I said Kawhi, but I mean, like, I'm not saying Saddiq will be Kawhi Leonard, but there's a lot of similarities in Saddiq Bey and, a Kawhi Leonard. I mean, there's a similar body frame. I mean, Kawhi wasn't, taking over the league his first couple of years in San Antonio. I mean, you can go look at his career stats. They were fairly low. And he did turn into the superstar that he is today. I think Saddiq Bey is the one player out of this whole core that is the biggest question mark, and he could be an X factor for this team.
So I believe that Duren is the next Dwight Howard, and you believe Saddiq Bey is the next Kawhi Leonard. It's perfect. We got a dynasty in Detroit, man.
It's coming. It's coming.
It's coming, man. So the last piece of news, well, not the last piece of news, but Draymond Green could have interest to coming to Detroit when he's a free agent in 2024. We talked about this a little bit earlier in the offseason. I don't know what podcast it was, but Draymond Green had dropped. Didn't he say it earlier in the offseason that he had interest in Detroit? Did he say something else about it again? Or is this any new information about Draymond Green coming to Detroit?
So this was a piece from a friend of mine, Sean Devaney, who works for Heavy.com. So shout out to Sean. Draymond Green was basically saying, like, when he is a free agent, it wouldn't surprise the media if he did go to Detroit because he's from Detroit.
Yeah.
But the main piece was talking about, like, Draymond says, if I had to leave and I had to go somewhere, it's probably to go play with Luka Doncic in Dallas, which I think would be so fun. Like, if you're just a basketball purist like myself, I would love to see Draymond Green just in Dallas. Like, that'd be a really fun basketball team to watch.
It really would. I mean, I like Draymond Green. I don't know. I would have to see what the team looks like this season and then the following season before I could say anything about Detroit. Draymond coming to Detroit in 2024. I do think he will be, when he does leave Golden State. I mean, I think it's safe to say you probably get one good year of like Golden State, Detroit. I mean, Golden State, Draymond Green, whether it's in Detroit or Dallas, you probably get 1 year of him playing at that level. Then after that, it's more of a off the bench mentor role, kind of like a coach, an extension of the coach. That's what you're going to give with Draymond. I don't really have too many thoughts about it. I think it would be cool if he comes to Detroit, but I don't know. I don't see it happening with Draymond Green, though. I really don't.
No, I really don't. I mean, unless I always think of like veterans that come to Detroit. I think Tracy McGrady. I think Chris Webber. Like guys way past their prime coming to Detroit. Like that's probably what would happen if Draymond Green did come to Detroit. Because if you look at his contract, he's not a free agent for a couple more years. But yeah. I thought it was a fun piece, something we could talk about a little bit. I know, Draymond Green, MSU alum. I mean, the Pistons fans are either they're Michigan fans or they're State fans or they hate them both. There's like no in between. So
yeah, and he's Sag nasty, man, standing up for Saginaw. I know someone that played against Draymond in like AAU basketball, and they said he comes into the barbershop. This was a couple years ago, but he was like, I'm repeating what he said. He's like, I never thought that chubby motherfucker would make the NBA. Like that's what he said. That was his thought on Draymond Green. He's a teacher. This guy's a teacher in Kalamazoo, and he played pro ball overseas, and he just happens to come into the barbershop every once in a while. And he played with Draymond Green, like he's from that Saginaw area. And he never thought. I personally think the dude's a hater because I know someone else that coached against Draymond Green, and they're like, when you look at him, didn't know why he was a Michigan State recruit, but the moment he started playing, you knew why he was going to play at Michigan State. So I just think this dude's a hater, but he said he was surprised that Draymond made the NBA.
I mean, there's a reason why Draymond Green's cashing those checks, and that guy's barely clearing $40,000 a year.
Oh, man, I got some stories about that guy we'll not share on this podcast, but he's an interesting dude. So Bojan Bogdanovic was seeking a multi-year deal before getting traded. I don't know. He's 33 years old. Is a multi-year deal, should we be concerned about? Is that what he wants in Detroit?
Well, I think he, like you said, he wanted it before he got traded. And I did read the piece from Mark Stein because that's where this news did come from. There's a reason why, I guess, this was the reason why some teams backed off of the Bogdanovic deal. Now, he is 33, which, it's fair to say he's past his prime, but there's probably maybe 2 to 3 good years left of him. But if I'm a Piston fan, the way I look at it, you're in a win-win situation. If he goes out and he balls out and you're not a playoff team, you could trade him in February at the deadline for something that maybe it's a first-round draft pick, maybe it's some young assets. If he sucks and he's just not the same player, well, he's going to be a free agent. That $19 million is only for this year. So it's a win-win for Detroit. If you want to extend him, you can. And if he balls out, if you're not a playoff team, but he's doing well, you could trade him to the highest bidder, whether it's a contender or a team that's absolutely desperate. I think the Detroit Pistons put themselves in a very comfortable situation with Bogdanovic, and I don't really see any issues with him wanting his money. I'm all about the players getting their money, but I don't think he'll ever sniff $19 million again in his career.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much money he was asking for. 19 million. It really doesn't even seem that high though, even though he is 33 years old. He's had 4 straight years of 17 or more points per game. 17 in Indiana. He was a 20-point scorer 1 year in the NBA. Then 18 this past year, career 39% shooter. NBA players today are playing for a lot longer and also playing at a higher level well into their 30s. So multi-year deal, I'm not concerned. It's just more about the money per year. I mean, if he signed like a 3-year extension for like 12 million a year, I wouldn't be disappointed at it at all. Like I would think that's a pretty fair contract for Bogdanovic, just because like even if he can't beat guys off the dribble, the dude's going to be a sniper in any NBA offense. Like he's going to be able to play at a high level, maybe not an 18 points per game scorer high level, but he's going to be able to play at a high level and knock down shots for your team probably for like another 3 or 4 years. So I wouldn't be concerned or upset if the Pistons signed him to a multi-year deal, as long as the money's right. Like I don't want 19 million a year for him, which I don't think they would do, but 10, 12 million, that'd be fine with me.
Yeah, I said around 12 to 15 million because someone did ask me this on Twitter, like what would be a fair multi-year deal. I said, you're probably looking like 12, 16, 17 million, like around that price range. Like if we kind of look at Troy Weaver since he's been here, I mean, the highest paid player has been Jeremy Grant.
Yep.
And that was 20 a year for 3 years. This would have been his third year at $20 million. So Troy Weaver really hasn't spent big money since he's been here. He's always kind of valued the smaller in between in the middle contracts. So I think if there was a deal to be made to trade him, he'll make it. If he feels that he's an important piece to this team and he wants to extend him, we saw what Marvin Bagley got this year, which I thought was extremely fair, getting $12 billion per year. I think Bogdanovic is a player that a lot of teams need because this league is a 3-point shooting league and he's one of the best 3-point shooters in the entire NBA. So there's value for him if you want to trade him or if you want to keep him.
So on the Bud and Cardigan show, James Edwards, I believe he was talking about Utah gave up Bojan Bogdanovic. They gave him up to Detroit because they didn't want Detroit to be in the sweepstakes for Victor Wembanyama. Are you buying that with Utah, that they traded away one of their best players just to have a better shot? Because I don't think Bogan would have made that much of a difference on Utah's team.
I don't even know Utah's roster after all the trades. I know Colin Sexton's there.
Lauri Markkanen.
Yeah, I don't really buy that, honestly. It could just be some smoke, but James is fairly accurate with his reportings. The text chain we had the other day, I told you the NBA is going to reward them with the lottery this year.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
Yeah, because if you kind of look like when Anthony Davis got traded to the Los Angeles Lakers, who won the lottery that year?
New Orleans.
The Pelicans. They just lost 2 stars. The NBA is all about taking care of the smaller markets because the bigger markets, they get all the, the sexy free agent names. Wouldn't surprise me if you see another French center playing in Utah.
And, the NBA rewarded New Orleans before Zion Williamson. When Chris Paul left, they got that trade with the Clippers, but then they also got Anthony Davis, I believe, the next year. So,
yeah,
you're probably right. Utah probably does get rewarded. I don't know. I was with James for a minute, but then I started thinking, like, dude, it's a 33-year-old veteran wing. He can win some games when the roster is good, but him himself as your best player, he's not going to win you many games. Like, I wasn't really buying it after that, but it would make sense, for them to trade him away and say, hey, with him on our roster, he increases the odds. I don't really think he increases the odds that much. I just think I think there was more behind the scenes with the trade than just we were trying to we didn't want to pay him $19 million this year.
So I don't remember who it was. It might have been on the Hoop Collective with Brian Windhorst because they were talking about this trade.
Yeah.
And obviously Danny Ainge is working over there now. And Kelly Olynyk, former Boston Celtic.
Yep.
And they were kind of saying like Danny Ainge trades for former players that he's comfortable with. So that's a big reason why Utah traded Bojan to Detroit, because they're getting Kelly Olynyk and they're getting a rotational piece in Saben Lee. So that could be the reason why we even have Bojan, because we signed Kelly Olynyk.
Wow. Yeah, probably. So there are no injuries to report on this week, so we're done with the news segment. Bleacher Report, Bleacher Report's NBA's breakout candidate list came out, and Cade Cunningham comes in at number 1. So I had some initial thoughts. My first thoughts were about fucking time people recognize Cade. That's my first thought. They woke up and they realized that they had downplayed what Cade did in Detroit. They're like, after the season ends and the dust settles, we get done with Summer League, we get done with all the stuff. We have that sweet spot in the NBA where nothing is going on. It's just like a dead period.
Mm-hmm.
That's when guys started watching film with fresh eyes and they're like, damn, Cade Cunningham was really good. But then I started looking at the list, and I don't know about you, but I was kind of insulted by this list. You saw the list, right? You know who was on this?
Yeah, let me pull up, because I know I did add it to our prep sheet, but I kind of glossed it over, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, so you got Cade 1, because being a Piston fan, I was like, oh, Cade's 1, sweet. But it's just like, I know when I was reading the list, it's kind of like, okay, that's kind of that's weird.
It's a weird list. Like Poku came in at number 10. Lauri Markkanen's on it, and the reasoning for Lauri Markkanen is just, I think it's stupid. It's just dumb. The guy made it sound like Cleveland buried Lauri Markkanen. They didn't let him, use his talents.
Okay, so for context, obviously, so the list would be from 10. It would be Alexei Pokashevsky. I think I said that right. Number 9 would be James Wiseman from Golden State. Number 8, Jalen Smith from the Pacers. Number 7, Devin Vassell. I don't even know where he plays. Maybe San Antonio still. Not sure. 6, Anthony Simons from Portland. 5, Michael Porter Jr. from the Nuggets. 4, Lauri Markkanen with the Jazz. 3, Jalen Green from the Houston Rockets. 2, Tyrese Halliburton from the Pacers. And number 1, Cade Cunningham of your Detroit Pistons.
That's an insulting list, right? Or am I wrong? Or am I just overreacting?
So, breakout candidates, I think I will sympathize. Top 10 lists are stressful.
Yes, they are.
I'm sure there are some players that he left out of this list that he regrets. But Cade to break out, to me, I thought he had a fantastic rookie season. Now, when I think of breakout, I think of someone that kind of underperformed and you expect them to do better the following season. I mean, unless Cade's dropping 30 a night. Okay,
but why is Scotty Barnes or Evan Mobley? Did they break out their rookie year? I don't understand the list. We already know what Lauri Markkanen is. There is no breaking out for Lauri Markkanen. There is no, right? There's no breaking out for him. It's over. That part of his career is done with. There is breaking out for Lauri Markkanen. Poco in Oklahoma City, dude, he's an inconsistent player. That's all he is. There's no breakout for him. We can hope and hope and hope for him to break out. It's never going to happen. He's going to have some stretches where he has some great games, and then other stretches where he looks average. Then Devin Vassell, dude, I thought he was already out of the NBA. What is he doing on a breakout list with Cade Cunningham? I think this list is completely insulting. I thought it was insulting to Cade. I thought it was insulting to Jalen Green, insulting to Tyrese Halliburton. It's just a dumb list. It doesn't even make any sense. All those players are all over the place. I hated that list. And yeah, I was all for it first. When you sent it to me and I saw that Cade was number 1, I'm like, oh, sweet. People have finally woke up. They're finally going to pay attention to Cade Cunningham in Detroit. And then I thought other guys from his draft class, other than Jalen Green, were going to be in it, and there wasn't. And then I saw the other names on the list. I'm like, oh, this is insulting. I hate this list. And that's how I feel about it. I'm still angry about it.
Yeah, I mean, outside of Jalen Green and Tyrese Halliburton, I mean, and Cade Cunningham, obviously.
Yeah.
None of those players are really going to make an impact.
Well, I mean, Anthony Simons, I get why they had
him. Yeah, him too. Yeah.
I feel like he already broke out, right?
Yeah, last year, I felt like when Damian Lillard went out, I had him on my fantasy team. That boy carried me so damn far. I lost my, I know I'm getting into the fantasy again. I feel like I bring up fantasy basketball at least once a week on this podcast. He carried me so far that I made it to the championship game and I lost by 10 points. But I mean, like, dude, he was a phenomenal player last year. Like, I think that's a big reason why they traded CJ McCollum, because he had a breakout season. Like, obviously, this guy that wrote this list doesn't really watch a whole lot of basketball. Like, if you would have had Killian Hayes on this list as a breakout candidate, you kind of have to think of it as a most improved players list.
Yeah.
And none of these guys, I really don't feel like they're going to be in a most improved players list.
But I mean, even the reason why he put Cade Cunningham was going to break out, it didn't really resonate with me. It didn't stand out. When I was reading, I thought, dude, you didn't watch anything from Cade Cunningham. You are just comparing his first half and then his second half stats, and that's it. And that's what you're relying on. Like, I felt like the article said nothing about a breakout, but to not have Scotty Barnes and Evan Mobley on that list, but then you have Cade Cunningham and Jalen Green, I just thought it was insulting. I think because that to me is saying that Scotty Barnes and Evan Mobley have already broke out in the NBA.
Yeah, it was kind of messed up in a sense. Oh, there goes my camera again, dude. I swear. But like the whole list was just kind of weird in my opinion. I don't get it. Like, if you're gonna have a breakout season, sure. I mean, you could have those players, but I don't know, man. It's kind of disrespectful, like you said, to have Cade Cunningham as a most improved or a breakout season when, to be honest, Cade Cunningham broke out last year. Like, we already know who Cade Cunningham is, what he's going to do, what he's going to provide on a nightly basis. He's going to be your leading scorer on most nights. If he's not your leading scorer, he's probably going to lead the team in assists. So to your point, 100% agree. I think a breakout list is just kind of disrespectful to Cade Cunningham and the Detroit Pistons for that matter.
What's a breakout year for Cade Cunningham, though, since we didn't get it in the article? Like, is it over 21 points? Is it more wins? Like, how does Cade Cunningham break out in the NBA? Does he have to make an all-star appearance? Like, I don't get what it means I get it what it means when a guy, like, you know, takes his numbers from this to that. That's breaking out. But Cade, 17-5-5 second half after the all-star weekend, he was what, 24-7-7, or is it 21-7-7? I know he had great numbers after the all-star break, and that to me was him breaking out. That was me. That second half was him saying, look, I've arrived on the NBA scene. Like, I'm not someone watching LeBron James, but I'm on his level now. That's what I felt like Cade was saying in the second half. So again, disagree with the list, but you know, what's your version? What's your breakout for Cade Cunningham?
For me, if Cade Cunningham were to break out, the Pistons are above 500. He makes an all-star team, and they make the playoffs. To me, that's a breakout. If Bleacher Report thinks all three of those things are going to happen, then I am one happy Detroit Pistons fan right now. If that were to happen, if the Pistons are like a 7 seed, they're above 5, like maybe they're 5 games above 500. Cade makes the all-star team. We're a playoff team. His averages go up. I think we're all sitting up here extremely happy.
Oh, yeah. No, for sure. But I mean, let's say individually breakout. Let's forget about the team accomplishments. Like, numbers wise, what is a breakout year for you with Cade? Because I think 23-7-7 would be breakout for Cade, because that's what we were getting last year. If he can do that for an entire season, he broke out and he's officially one of the best players in the NBA.
Yeah, I think it's not crazy to think he could do 25, let's say 7 and 10. I think he can average 10 assists easily, especially with the 3-point shooting that you did get this offseason in Alec Burks and Bogdanovic. Both are close to around 40% 3-point shooters. So you're getting more, perimeter shooting around a guy that is consistently, driving to the lane, and now he can go kick it out. So, I mean, you got Saddiq Bey, you got Bogdanovic if they're in the starting lineup. I mean, whoever he's playing with, he can kick it out if, the defenses trap him. So I think 25, 8, and 10 is not crazy.
Man, that would be a hell of a stat line for Cade Cunningham this year. You just woke so many people up and got so many people excited. Did you see that quote? I don't know if it was a quote from Dwayne Casey, and I forget who posted it on Twitter. But since we're talking about Cade Cunningham, during the open practice, you saw him play a lot in the post. And I guess Dwayne Casey had said they plan on running Cade Cunningham out of the post, which is something I want to see. So, man, I don't even know where I'm going with that, why I'm talking about Cade out of the post. But, I guess like Cade being able to hurt you from everywhere is probably like in the post and whatnot is just going to add another dimension to him. Like, I think with this 4 out, whether it's Isaiah Stewart shooting on the perimeter with Bogan, Sadiq, and maybe Jaden Ivey clearing out, we're going to see a lot more post touches from Cade Cunningham and kind of run the offense like they used to do. Point guards in the 90s, I remember they would like back down guys and they would get in the post and kick it out. I think we're going to see that a lot with Cade Cunningham. Just using
he's damn near 230 pounds now. So I think a big reason why he bulked up is because he was getting killed in the paint, wasn't getting foul calls. So I think posting up, to your point, is something that he did work on a little bit towards the end of the year. And I think that's something that he'll probably add to his game. I don't know, maybe we get like 2-3 post, possessions each game. But like I said, sky's the limit with him, man. He's a superstar.
No, he really is. He really is. I'm going to deliver my top 10 Western Conference standings because I didn't do this last week because I was unprepared. So are you ready for this, for me to drop these for you?
For sure.
All right. So I agreed with you at number 10, Sacramento Kings. Me and you both have Sacramento at number 10. At number 9, I have the Minnesota Timberwolves. You have them at number 8, so I just dropped them one spot. Then at number 8, I actually have the Portland Trail Blazers. I think Damian Lillard coming back, obviously it's going to be huge. When you're playing without a superstar like him, your team is just different. But we're talking about Anthony Simons, how he had a breakout year, and he's on that really crappy list that Bleacher Report posted. But having Damian Lillard in the backcourt, that's going to open things up for Anthony Simons. I think we're going to see another big year from him. And then with the addition of Jeremy Grant being that Swiss Army knife, Chauncey Billups having another year of coaching, Portland, I think they're going to make some noise. And an 8 seed, I don't think that's unreasonable for them. At number 7, I have the Los Angeles Lakers because, honestly, you got LeBron James. I mean, if he's motivated and he's healthy, I can't count the Lakers out from being inside the top 10 to make the playoffs. At number 6, this is where it gets interesting because you had this team in your top 3. You actually had them at number 2, but I have the Denver Nuggets at number 6. I know they're getting Jamal Murray back. I know they're getting Michael Porter Jr. back. They also have Nikola Jokic. They're going to be a great team on paper. I just think the Western Conference with the next 5 teams I'm about to pick, that those guys can be so good that they're just going to – that the Nuggets aren't going to be able to keep up during the regular season just because there's so much star power and so much firepower from these next 5 teams. But number 5, I have the Los Angeles Clippers. I did mock them a little bit last week because I was saying like how Paul George and Kawhi Leonard couldn't get it done. But those two healthy with Reggie Jackson, I mean, let's be honest, that's a dangerous team. Number 4, I have the Phoenix Suns. Drop them 3 spots because we saw the report about DeAndre Ayton, right? Like he hasn't even talked to his coach yet. That's big. And then another year of Chris Paul, Devin Booker. I think they're going to be a solid team, but they just have so much noise surrounding them that I think it will affect them a little bit going into the season. So I have them at number 4. Number 3, I have the Golden State Warriors. I mean, you got Steph, Clay, Draymond, Jordan Poole, James Wiseman. He was also on that breakout list. Jonathan Kuminga. They got a deep team. They got some some championship experience. They're going to be fine. Then I got the Grizzlies at number 2. And then I got the Dallas Mavericks at number 1, just because I think Luka will take that next step. Even though they did lose Jalen Brunson, you do get Christian Wood, who's going to be great offensively for them. And Luka, you just can't deny how good Luka is as a player. Like, he is definitely worth a few wins by himself on that team. So that would be my top 10 Western Conference standings.
All right. I don't know if you saw, but Christian Wood obviously thought going to Dallas he'd be the starter. And during media day, Jason Kidd said he'll be great off the bench.
Oh, no way. Really?
Yeah, and he started doing his cryptic tweet stuff. I know you're probably all too familiar with that. So
Oh
I
my
guess JaVale McGee's going to be your starting center in Dallas for the Mavericks. So it's just like I don't hate that list though. I mean, like I said, I'm really high in Denver. I think Denver is a team that they have a lot of talent. I mean, they traded for Aaron Gordon. He's there with Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic.
Yeah,
Um,
they are solid. Wait, so the Christian Wood thing, he really is coming off the bench for the Dallas Mavericks? That's what it looks like?
that's what Jason Kidd said during their media day.
Wow. What episode did we talk about this with Christian Wood where it would go sour real quick in Dallas? We talked about this.
I think it was like an episode or two ago when I was like kind of giving my. Cause I don't even think I had Dallas in my top 5.
You had him at number 5.
Okay, yeah, it's like it's just like I like Dallas and I want to put my faith in Luka, but it's like they just failed to surround him with competent. Like he doesn't have a number 2.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like he's got a bunch of role players that can help him out, but I mean, he needs another superstar next to him. He needs another star to take the load off of him because it's just he's just going to wear himself out. I mean, he almost got all the way to the NBA Finals, but he was just worn out by like the second round of the playoffs. I mean, yeah, he blew Phoenix off the Phoenix Suns off the the court, but it's just like I feel bad for him.
He needs Bradley Beal. He needs Bradley Beal in Dallas. That to me would make the most sense. Those two playing together. Or Devin Booker. Get Devin Booker to Dallas and him and Luka Doncic taking over. It would be filthy how great those two would be able to play together. It'd be awesome. Yeah, I'm surprised by the Christian Wood news. Dude, see, this is the thing. Like, you knew Christian Wood at some point. I don't even know what to say. I just can't believe it. It's just so that Christian Wood is potentially coming off the bench for the Dallas Mavericks. Because, for almost the entirety of his career, this guy has felt like he deserves his own team and deserves to be the guy. And now at least he got paid. At least he got paid. That's all that matters, I guess. But, man, that sucks for Christian Wood, man. Damn. To be replaced by what? JaVale McGee's like 34 years old. And he's going to be starting over you for the Dallas Mavericks. I can't believe it. Wow. Christian Wood. Wow.
Poor bastard.
Yeah. That sucks. Wow. Man, hopefully they know what they're doing in Dallas. Jeez.
They don't.
Gosh. So bad. When you were telling me, though, when we were talking about who would get the number 1 overall pick, you were talking about Utah, and I was talking about San Antonio, how I felt like they could get it. And then you're like, no, they're going to draft Scoot Henderson. And then I was joking about Josh Primo and him being like championship backcourt. What backcourt currently in the NBA would you want to see Cade and Jaden Ivey go up against in the NBA Finals? So it'd have to be a Western Conference backcourt.
Ooh,
But
backcourt.
fantasy backcourt in the finals versus Cade and Ivey. And it doesn't have to be this year. I'm just talking about the backcourts that are out there right now.
I'm thinking.
Yeah, I hate to put you on the spot, but I don't know.
Is it selfish of me to say Stephen Clay?
No, not at all. That's a great backcourt. It's a great backcourt. I was kind of thinking like Ja Morant, Dillon Brooks. That would be a fun backcourt. But then I really started thinking about like Scoot Henderson and Josh Primo, and that would be a really fun backcourt. And then maybe, I don't know, Reggie Jackson and Paul George. That'd be a fun one against Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey.
I mean, you could say Dame Lillard and Anthony Simons. Like, that'd be a good one.
That would be fun too, because then you get the Chauncey factor as well. Those would probably be my 2. That'd probably be one of my favorites, though. But I don't know, man. Reggie Jackson and Paul George. That'd be a lot of fun to see those two go against Cade and Jaden Ivey. I think that would be pretty cool. But yeah, Damian Lillard, Anthony Simons. I like that one.
It would be hilarious to see Reggie Jackson in the finals against the Pistons.
Oh, dude, that'd be so cool.
And Luke Kennard off the bench. Like, you got a bunch of Piston misfits against like the current Detroit Pistons. Like that would be comical, and it would be so much drama. But I mean, I think the Pistons will be a finals team at least by 2025.
Ooh, damn. I can't wait till we have a finals prediction. It's going to be happening on this podcast at some point, and it's not going to be a hypothetical. It's going to be a legit finals prediction, and I cannot wait to do that on this podcast.
Yeah, LeBron should be like, what, 50 by then?
Oh, and he'll be playing for like his fifth, sixth, seventh team at that point. Who knows?
Him and his son will be on the Lakers.
Jeez. I hope that happens, though, for LeBron James. I hope he actually gets to Bronny and Bryce. That would be really cool. That would be incredible if he could pull that off.
Yeah, for sure. It's pretty funny though, man. Like, I don't know if you've seen Carmelo Anthony's son.
I have, yeah.
Bro, that kid's gonna be a problem. Like, dude, he's so good. Like, I was like, damn, you're better than your dad right now. Like, dude.
LaMarcus Aldridge's kid, I think, is going to be pretty good too. That kid is already working on his footwork in that mid-range shot that LaMarcus Aldridge pulled out.
Damn.
That's what we're going to see in the NBA. It's just always going to be like it's going to be such like a man. I don't even know what to call it, but it's just going to be a league of just all these guys whose dad played in the NBA before them. That's really cool. Do we have any questions from the people watching?
We do. But I was thinking of, like you said, dads, and I thought of Michael Jordan's son on Larissa Pimpin. I don't know why. When he said that, I was like, oh, man.
It's kind of I thought his son Marcus would like at least be able to sniff the NBA.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't get the talent from his dad.
I mean, he knows how to steal. I mean, you could see it because he pulled Lauren Pimpin, which I don't know if it's actually polling, but he definitely stole her from somebody. He can play defense.
Honestly, man, it's pretty funny. So we do have a couple questions. This one does come from Xavier. He asked it almost like a half hour ago. He said, who do y'all see getting shipped with Kemba, considering a buyout isn't an option? What else do we need? I'm thinking picks.
I mean, you talked about how you think Kemba's going to be waived. I don't see him being traded. Like, there has to be interest from another team.
Mm-hmm.
So we can say, let's package him with Hami Diallo. I don't know how many teams want Hami Diallo and Kemba Walker on their roster. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm not going to be mean or anything like that. I just don't see a market where Kemba Walker will be traded anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, I mean, Hami Diallo got traded for Svi Mykhailiuk in a second-round pick.
Yep.
Like, his trade value is not that high. Do you want to trade one of your core to try to get maybe, I don't know, maybe you need more center help or more forward help? Like, you'd have to package. Like, are you going to package Sadiq and Kemba? Probably not. Going to package Killian and Kemba? I don't know. I think your best option is going to be a wave option, and you have another 2.5 weeks for that to happen.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't want to lose like a Hami or a Killian or an Isaiah Livers or any of the young guys just to get rid of Kemba Walker. Now, if his contract was for multiple years, yeah, I'd probably be willing to think of some trade scenarios to get him out of Detroit, but I believe it's only 1 year for $9 million. So, I mean, even if he's on the bench for the entire season, it's not that big of a deal to me.
Yeah, and to Xavier's question, if Kemba Walker was a desired asset, he would have already been traded.
Yeah.
Teams know that he's not the same player. Teams know that they're not going to probably get 20 or 30 games out of him because his knees are just shot. Like, I think of Tracy McGrady when he played in Detroit. That's Kemba Walker now.
It's bad.
Yeah.
Well, Tracy McGrady was still getting all-star votes.
That's true. All right. So
it's a good question, though. Let me put that out there, too.
It is. I mean, I think that's when we had Mike Curtis on. I mean, I asked him about Kemba. He had no idea. He had no idea. That's the $1 million question everyone wants to know. Kemba Walker, are we keeping him? What's happening? Are we trading him? Nobody knows except Troy Weaver. And when you get that notification from Woj that the Pistons have waived Kemba Walker, you can say the Pistons Talk podcast told you first.
Sure can.
All right, so we have another question from Ryan. Ryan's literally in every podcast, every live stream we do. So shout out to Ryan. He's an OG.
Appreciate you, Ryan.
What remains our position of need, and who do you see filling out the void given the money we'll have? I would say a more versatile power forward. Give me Pascal Siakam.
Yeah, I think the 4 spot is probably our biggest position of need, just because I think we have 3 options there starting. Bojan, which feels like that's probably the best option, the most realistic option. You have Marvin Bagley. Some people speculate that he could be starting at the 4. And then you have Isaiah Livers, who you talked about, who could potentially start at the 4. That seems to be more of a pipe dream now, like the longest shot of happening. But I think the 4 spot is definitely most of our position of need, just because we have so many questions at that spot, because we have 3 guys that I think could fill it. But I really don't know what the position of need yet is until I see all these guys play together during the season. Like, I want to say Isaiah Stewart and Duren and Nerlens Noel. That's 3 guys that I think can hold down the 5 spot for a majority of the season. We got Cade at the 1. Don't have to worry. Got Jaden Ivey, Alec Burke at the 2. Don't have to worry. We got Sadiq Bey at the 3. Don't have to worry. So I would say number 4, the 4 spot is definitely the biggest position of need. But it's just hard to tell until we see all these guys on the floor together.
Yeah, I think Ryan hit it right in the head. I think power forward, you did lose Jeremy Grant, and I think he was holding the, power forward position down pretty well, even though him and Sadiq seem to switch that position on a nightly basis. But I think power forward is definitely a position in need. I think Troy Weaver will be looking to see what he can do to improve the roster at that forward spot. Pascal Siakam, man, I'd love Pascal Siakam on this team, but that's the type of player where you're going to have to give up a lot of draft capital, a lot of assets. I don't think Pascal Siakam is probably in Troy Weaver's range currently, but I do think there are power forwards on the market. Maybe a Jay Crowder, for example. I mean, Jay Crowder wants to get traded. I don't really know if Troy Weaver has interest in him, and I don't know if Jay Crowder wants to come to Detroit. He probably wants to go play for another contender. Like, wouldn't surprise me if he went back to the Miami Heat. It really wouldn't. But, I mean, you kind of have to look at smaller fish at that power forward position. I think Bogdanovic, could play the 3 and Sadiq plays the 4.
Yeah. Yeah, really real quick. I don't think Jay Crowder, I like him. I just don't know if he's like the biggest, like him and Bogan, they're probably on the same level right now, right? As players. So even though you could get a Jay Crowder, how much better is he going to be at that 4 spot than what we currently have? I'm just trying to be devil's advocate, I guess, right now.
I would say Bogdanovic is a better player than Jay Crowder offensively, but defensively, Jay Crowder has the edge on him. So True. It's kind of like pick your poison, right? So, I can see where Ryan's going with this in terms of you kind of have to upgrade that forward position. You're absolutely right. Whether it's in this year's draft, whether a trade becomes available, I just don't know what the Pistons are looking for at that forward position. But to Lance's point, let's see them play, and we can kind of assess what the position in need is, whether it's before the February deadline, the draft, or maybe there's a G League guy that's just tearing it up. You really never know. So we got a question from someone all the way over in Australia. So, which is really cool. There's a lot of Aussie Pistons fans. I've actually found this out over the years. A lot of Australians love the Detroit Pistons. They love the bad boys. So it's really cool.
And I looked at the numbers for the podcast, and there is a pretty good population of Pistons fans that live in Japan that listen to the podcast, which I think is really, really cool to have Pistons fans. Pistons fans, they're all over the world, man. It's really cool to see that.
That is awesome. So his question, how much do you make of Bagley as a starting center during open practice? I can't see him starting over Stu. I reckon they want our starters going against our better defenders personally.
Ooh, that's a good point. I like that last part because, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, that last part. I don't know. We were kind of talking a little bit out on the podcast. Like we could overreact about Marvin Bagley starting. I personally think he's best off the bench. I think there's more value in Marvin Bagley coming off the bench, playing 22, 25 minutes a night, giving you 14 and 7 versus starting playing 28, 32 minutes a game, averaging 14 and 7. Like, I just think he's better as a six man, better as that offensive player because his strengths are putting the ball into the hoop. That give him, let him run with the second unit and be the guy in the second unit. And I think he's a much better player for your team. I think it makes the most sense. So, I guess I'm not making too much out of Marvin Bagley starting at center during the open practice. I'm not gonna overreact to that, even though a part of me does want to overreact.
Yeah, I mean, I think I tweeted out a couple of weeks ago like a projection starting lineup, and I didn't have Marvin Bagley at my 5 spot. I had him off the bench because the way I view Marvin Bagley is I think he could be a sixth man. I
Yep.
think he could be the first guy off the bench. I think he's a guy that whether you start him, whether he's off the bench, you know what you're getting. You're getting a guy that can catch lobs, a guy that could score at will. I think the only problem with Bagley starting is you know what you're getting from him defensively. And not saying that he's trash, but help side, not his strength. Rim protection, not really his strength. He's more of an offensive player. Defensively, he's just not that gifted. And to your point, I think Isaiah Stewart is your starting center opening night. And I think Dwayne Casey wants to emphasize that defense more. He said it today during open practices. They're really honing on defense. They want to be a top 10 defensive team this year. That's a goal for them. So I think defensively, if you hear that, Isaiah Stewart will probably be your starting center opening night.
Yeah, and Marvin Bagley, I think what's unique about him is he's very good offensively. I just think he struggles against most starters. Where like offensively, he could probably score on most starters in the NBA, but what you have and what the uniqueness of having Marvin Bagley is that offensively he's so gifted that if you put him on the second unit, he's just a matchup nightmare for most guys off the bench. You get a guy that could in the right situation, like he could probably average over 20 a game on another team because he's that gifted offensively. So if you're able to bring that off the bench, that's a huge weapon and something a lot of teams don't have. And I just think that's where Marvin Bagley's value is off the bench.
Yeah, I think you said it perfectly. I think I've said it on previous podcasts. Marvin Bagley to me is a niche player.
Yep.
And there's a lot of niche players in the NBA that play their roles and they play it very well. I think him being off the bench is not a demotion. I think if you look at our bench, you have guards that can get him the ball. He's going to be playing with Killian Hayes and, Hamidou Diallo, guys like that, maybe Alec Burks out there. So, I mean, he's going to have guys that get him the basketball, to throw him lobs. So I think the way we're probably going to use him is a lot of pick and rolls because who knew he liked dunking? Never saw that in Sacramento.
He's in the corner shooting threes for some reason. That two-man game between him and Killian, it's going to be beautiful.
For sure. We got another question, which, we were talking about this guy a little while ago. What team will be the best fits for Christian Wood?
The Shanghai Sharks, where he can be the star of his own team.
I do have a serious answer, though.
Okay.
The Charlotte Hornets.
Yeah, that would be an interesting team. Him and LaMelo, two volatile personalities on the same team with each other. Whew, that's going to be a lot of fun to watch in the NBA if that happens. I like that fit for him. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, who knows what's going to happen in Dallas, but it's kind of a shitty situation because I think he assumed that he was going to be starting, and doesn't look like he's going to be starting.
I think the best team for maybe not the best team for Christian Wood, but a team I would like to see him go to, a team that I think would maximize on his potential and on his talent as a player but also get into him being a professional would be the Miami Heat. I would love to see him. I don't know, his attitude would hold him back from what I've heard and seen, but for the most part, I think Miami would get the most out of Christian Wood. I think they could potentially get him to buy in and just reach his full potential. I really do think Miami would be a great destination for Christian Wood.
I think the Clippers would be a good place for him too.
That'd be interesting too, for sure.
Because you have alphas there, and they would put him in line very quick. You're not gonna come into LA demanding to get 25 touches a night. Like, is great as a player he is. I think he still hasn't figured out that you have to play your role. Yep. You're not a LeBron. You're not a Giannis. You're not a Kawhi. Those guys get special treatment because they're the best players in the world. And I think as soon as he kind of figures that out, like the mental part of like, hey, I just need to play my role and do my part, then he's going to get playing time.
Yeah, there was this article written by James Edwards. I don't know when it was published, but he was interviewing Isaiah Livers, and Isaiah Livers was talking about, as a kid, you grow up wanting to be a superstar in the NBA. But then Isaiah Livers figured out, I think he said his sophomore, junior year, maybe senior year in college, he figured out that he could be a superstar in his role. And that's when he started doing what the team wanted him to do, whether it was, be the creator, be the shooter, be the lockdown defender, whatever the team needed of him, he would adapt his game to that role, and then he would fulfill it. And that, if Christian Wood had that mentality, dude, I mean, he would be making 20, 30 million a year, in the NBA, because he's that good, but his mindset isn't into buying into what he needs to do to make that kind of money. Like, he doesn't buy into what you were saying, like finding his role in the NBA. He still thinks he's the LeBrons, the Giannis's, the Lucas. Yeah. He thinks he's those guys when really, there's nothing wrong with being a second-tier player to a superstar. There's nothing wrong with that.
And no, like I said, a lot of it takes players a lot of time to realize that they're not that guy anymore. I mean, look at Andre Drummond. Andre Drummond was getting paid $30 million by the Detroit Pistons, and now he signs for vet minimums, and he's team hopping every year.
Yep.
It's a reality check. I mean, he's going to be backing up Nikola Vucevic, who he dominated every time they played, and that's going to be his backup. So, it's pretty crazy.
Alex Caruso said it well too when he was in the G League. He's like, look, everybody can score 20, 25 points a game in the NBA, but not every team needs people to do that. So you have to find your role and adapt. And then, and look at Alex Caruso. The dude's making, $40 million over 3 years or something. Like, Alex Caruso figured it out. Christian Wood, that's going to be his downfall if he doesn't figure it out.
Yeah, for sure. So we're going to have another question from D-Lock. So he asked, do you think our Pistons can win 30 games? I'll let you go with this one first.
I hate doing the predictions. I've been wrong every year. Last year, I thought the Pistons could win 28 games. They won 25. The year before, I thought they could win 25. They won 23. I think talent-wise, I mean, we haven't seen them all play together during the regular season. I think this team out of the last 3 years is the most talented by far out of the last 3 years. I think 30 wins. I mean, I really think 30 wins is possible for Detroit, but man, I've been wrong the past 2 years on predicting their record. So I don't know. I mean, it really depends on the improvements of Cade, how well Jaden Ivey plays his rookie year. Can Sadiq Bey take that next leap? How is Bojan going to fill out with all these guys, Isaiah Stewart? There's a lot of questions, but I will say that I think the Pistons can win 30 games. It's hard for me to really make a prediction because there's so many question marks still going into the regular season. But 30 wins, I think, is possible just by looking at this team.
So that would be a 7-game improvement from last year.
Okay, so they won 23 last year.
Okay. So if I look at this roster, they've added 3 veterans that impact winning. Nerlens Noel, Alec Burks, and recently Bojan Bogdanovic.
Yep.
I think they can win 36 wins this year. And like my prediction last podcast, I think they're a play-in team. I think that's their ceiling. I think play-in is in play. I think if everyone stays healthy, I think the low end is like 36. I think the high end is closer to 40. I really think that this is a team that can compete. I think a lot of things would have to go right for them to be at that 40 win mark, but I think Cade Cunningham could figure it out. I think he could take the offensive load. I think Jaden Ivey is going to surprise a lot of people. I think he could easily average 15 points a game his rookie year. I think Sadiq Bey could easily average 20 points a game if he wanted to. I think Jeremy Grant getting injured last year was a blessing in disguise for him because it really showed him what it takes to be a number 2 option next to Cade Cunningham. So I think there's a lot of positives with this team. And I think this is probably going to be the most competitive team that the Pistons have probably seen in the last 4 seasons.
Yeah, I think 30 wins is very realistic for this team. I don't want to say they're going to take a huge leap. I'll say, though, 36 wins. I would say that's probably, for me personally, I think that would probably be the high for them this year. Like 40 wins, that would be crazy. I don't see them taking that big of a leap. But I mean, if everything works out and Jaden Ivey is a stud and Isaiah Stewart's 3-point shooting is legit and, Bogan is still close to that 18 points per game score and helps them win. Yeah, I mean, that is, but a lot of things have to be right in order for them. So I'll say 30 wins. I definitely see that happening. 36 would be the high for me for this season. That'd be the ceiling, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, like Alec Burks, too, I think goes so under the radar. I mean, he's been a 40% 3-point shooter the last 2 or 3 seasons, I believe. I think him and Bojan really opened the offense a lot for this team. I think the Pistons are going to be kind of middle of the pack now in terms of 3-point shooting because they were one of the worst 3-point shooting teams last year. And they're going to really emphasize defense this year, which Casey said they want to be a top 10 defensive team. I think they can do it. I really do. I've seen lesser teams coached under Stan Van Gundy be top 10 in defense, and this team has way more talent than any Van Gundy rosters did back then.
Yeah, and I just think defensively the tough part is going to be you're going from Isaiah Stewart, who we all know is a very good defensive player. Like, I don't even have to get into that. You can look all that stuff up yourself. But the drop-off comes from Isaiah Stewart to Duren. As of right now, I think there's going to be a drop-off because Duren is only 18 years old. Who knows how good I mean, I know he's going to block some shots. He's probably going to send some balls into the 10th row at LCA next year, probably even further than that. He's going to block some shots, but that drop off defensively between him and Isaiah Stewart, that's going to be huge. So, even though you're predicting a top 10 defense team, which I think is in the realm of possibility, it's just we're relying on an 18-year-old to cover the paint and be that communicator on defense. And that's a lot to ask of an 18-year-old in his first year.
But here's my counter to that is maybe Duren doesn't play that much. Maybe Noel is your backup to Isaiah Stewart.
Yeah, that could very well be true too. Like when we first started doing this podcast, I was talking about Nerlens Noel, how I thought he could potentially start. And I think, he was going to have a much larger role than just sitting on the bench. Like a lot of people thought he's just going to be a mentor and he's not going to play. But to your point, yeah, if Nerlens Noel is the one coming off the bench to start the season over Duren to kind of ease him into that role. Yeah, I would 100% agree with you. I think the drop off between Noel and a Stewart isn't as steep as it is between Duren and Stewart. So yeah, I would agree with you on that then for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if he can stay healthy, I mean, he's one of the best shot blockers in the NBA. And that's something that, the Pistons have kind of been lacking is rim protection. I mean, we're going to have a conversation that the Pistons' best rim protector over probably the last 10 seasons was Andre Drummond, and he was very inconsistent with it. Some nights he'd have 4 blocks, some nights he'd have 1 block, and he'd foul out in 10 minutes. It's, I think the center position to me, I don't really think it's going to be too much of a drop off because I think Durant's going to learn a whole lot, and I think he's a smart kid and he wants to get better. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's a starting center by next season for the Pistons.
Yeah, I mean, again, I just think the drop off will happen at the beginning of the season for him. Mm-hmm. There's a lot to learn during the NBA season, but I think he's going to be fine as a player.
For sure. So this isn't even so much a question, but I thought we could talk about it. This comes from Benjamin Foe. Shout out to Ben. Haven't talked to him in a while. Best team fit for Killian equals the Pelicans. Just give us Herb Jones.
I would love Herb Jones for Killian Hayes. I don't know if that's possible, but I'm wondering why is the best team for Killian the Pelicans? Like, what makes them, out of all the other NBA teams, what makes them the best option for Killian?
I mean, I could see where he's going with it. They don't really. I can't even think of their starting point guard right now because I haven't watched the Pelicans in a minute.
Probably CJ McCollum.
I don't even know, but
Look this up.
If that trade was on the table, I would take it, but that's just me. Herb Jones is a monster defensively, and he did get one Rookie of the Year vote from some ESPN guy.
He did. Oh my gosh, he definitely did. No, I mean, yeah, I guess would Killian Hayes be even though Killian, I don't even know if he goes to the Pelicans, if Killian Hayes would really be like the offensive starter though, right? Because you got Brandon Ingram, you got Zion Williamson. Like, I don't know. I feel like Killian Hayes, he'd probably just be pushed into like almost a spot up shooter role on that team, right?
Unless he's just passing every play. Yeah, he's just his Rajon Rondo. He's just passing every play. Like, they still have Kyra Lewis who's hurt, which I thought Kyra Lewis was going to be a stud. I was so wrong about that.
Jose Alvarado, that's the other point guard.
Oh, okay. So it's the king of the cherry picks.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know who played point guard for him last year. I'm looking at this roster. It had to be like, I guess maybe Devontae Graham, maybe a little bit, but I think it's more of CJ McCollum was definitely taking over point guard duties for that team after he got traded. I mean, I guess I see it with Killian, but I don't know. I don't think Killian goes to any other team and really gets to be like the man.
No, I think there's enough. It's hard because he's still developing and he's a project player.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be unfair and judge him. It's like he's going to be a bench player for the rest of his career because, he could just, click and he figures it all out this year. And then you're kind of in an ultimatum like, well, do I start Killian next to Cade now? So, I mean, I think we have to be patient with Killian because some people think that we absolutely ride him way too hard.
I mean, I don't know. I'm just thinking of the perfect team for Killian Hayes. Like the perfect team that he could go to would just allow him to be like the point guard. Just like, hey, we're going to live with the turnovers. We're going to live with the decisions. That's the perfect team. And I don't think there is a team in the NBA that would allow him to do that right now. I think if anything, the best situation for Killian is just to run the second unit in Detroit. I don't think any team in the NBA would want him as a starter. And I don't think him as a starter in an NBA team is really just going to let him take over and do his thing, because we haven't seen it.
I think San Antonio would be a good fit for him.
Yeah, I guess I'd have to see how they play. That's the other thing. It's easy to say, hey, he'd be good here because we're looking at the roster and saying they don't have this guy. But Killian's, I think the best version of Killian would be being a lead guard, setting guys up and, playing sound defense. I just don't think there's a team out there that's going to let him do that. We're not going to get the Rajon Rondo yet of Killian Hayes yet. We're not going to get that version of him yet.
Yeah, it's funny when we landed Cade. I believe I'm trying to think who I asked. It might have been Laz from the Detroit Bad Boys, because I think we got to interview him during a live stream, and I said, "Do you just move Killian to the bench?" And he's like, "No." At the time, for context, this is as soon as we drafted, or we didn't draft Cade yet, but we won the lottery.
Yeah.
And I kind of saw the writing on the wall back then. I was just like, well, move them to the bench so they don't have to share the basketball, But, I mean, hey, I'll stay patient with Killian. I think he give him another year or two, and you'll kind of know what he is as a player.
Yeah, and he's only 21, so we'll see.
Yeah, that's true.
We have any more questions?
We have one from C. Gerald. Said maybe Troy is right about Killian too. Said it would take a few years to be ready. He did say that. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, I mean, I think Killian's on the cusp of being something. Whether it's I don't think his ceiling is an all-star player in the NBA. I think we're past that. I think his ceiling is just being a solid role player and contributor, maybe even a spot starter in the NBA. There are flashes of Killian where I think, damn, dude, this could be really good. I just don't see it happening for him. I think the best case scenario for Killian's career is just to be a solid guard spot starter in the NBA.
Yeah, I think the more I watch him, the more I kind of see his potential get untapped. And it's kind of like you get excited watching him. You're like, okay, there's something there. And then he makes a mistake and you're like, it's not there yet. Like to Troy's point, he comped him to Goran Dragic.
Yeah.
It's a very good player. But I think there's something there. It's just a matter of us being patient, I guess. And I don't know if the Pistons are going to be patient enough to develop him.
Well,
what's that? You were breaking up a little bit.
Oh, they signed him for his 4th year. They gave him that little rookie year thing. They extended him for a year.
Yeah, I just think he's going to need another 2 to 3 years. And I don't know if the Pistons, I think the Pistons in the next 2 to 3 years are going to be in the playoffs and, competing. I don't know if they're going to be so focused on development anymore.
Yeah, but if he can just come in and just run the second unit, even if it is only for like 20 minutes a night, that's fine. Like he can contribute to a championship team or a contending team at that point.
Yeah, like I said, I still have this jersey. Like I said, I'm a jersey curse. So if he does get traded, I will not be surprised.
We'll see with him. Only time will tell.
Ooh, this is a good question. This kind of intertwines Pistons and Lions. Who gets fired first? Casey or Dan Campbell?
I did say that Casey would be on the hot seat. I don't think that Troy will ever fire him. I think the next step for Casey would be a front office role. So I'll say Dan Campbell gets fired before Dwayne Casey.
Yeah, I mean, when you're getting waxed by Seattle, that's not a good look. I mean, like you said, there's been so many reports of him getting a front office role after his contract extension is up, and they'll probably look for a new coach. But I would probably say Dan Campbell too. I mean, I think through his first 21 games, he's like 4-16-1.
Yeah.
It's which, they're rebuilding too, but at the same time, like you have to beat teams like Seattle. You can't average the most points per game and allow 60 points a game every week. Like it's just, you can't do that if you're the Lions.
Yeah, no, I just think like football, it's genuinely like you get 3 years and then you get the first year, you strip everything down. Second year is traditionally like you get some more of your players and then you find other guys to fit out your roster. Then the third year, you see it all come to fruition. And I don't know. I think that Dan Campbell has done a wonderful job of establishing a culture in Detroit. But again, it's football, man. It's like you got to produce at some point. And if you can't even beat the crappy teams, you're going to get fired real quick in the NFL. I feel like turnaround in the NFL is so much faster than it is in the NBA.
Yeah, I mean, Geno Smith looked like Peyton Manning out there today. I mean, he was just, and their running back was just killing us. I was like, dude, like, I know we had a lot of injuries. Like, you didn't have Amon-Ra, you didn't have DeAndre Swift. You're still missing one of your guards for the offensive line, and defensively, like you lost, or I can't even say his last name. It's really hard. Amani.
Omanio, that's what I call
it. Yeah, you lost him. It's just that I get the injuries, but at some point, Aaron Glenn, you cannot allow the worst team in the NFL to almost put a 50-piece on you at home.
Yeah, like the offense, they were playing with Tom Kennedy was out there, Quintez Cephas, Khalif Raymond. These guys were taking They were out on the field a lot tonight, and they still put up, 45 points? Like, that offensive coordinator, he did his job. There's no excuse for anybody else. So injuries happen in the NFL. It's next man up, get the most out of them, and try to get a W.
Yep. Yeah, it's just like, to your point, like, you can't really be mad because there were injuries.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, I don't think I saw a stat. I believe it was from Bob Wojnarowski from the Detroit News saying that Seattle never punted in that game.
Oh, wow.
They didn't punt.
Crazy.
Went on their Buffalo Bills shit and just freaking put like 40 on them.
Gosh, that was crazy. Josh Reynolds helped on my fantasy team, and I also traded for Jamal Williams earlier in the year. But then I'm in another money fantasy league, and I feel like I could have been undefeated in both leagues, but in one of my money leagues, my brother beat me. He was the leading scorer, and I was the third leading scorer, and he beat me. He had Amon-Ra St. Brown, Aaron Jones, and Justin Jefferson. They all went off in 1 week. And then today, I still have a chance to win, but the guy, I don't know how the scoring is done in this league. It's pretty crazy, but TJ Hawkinson had 60 points, and he was basically the guy that carried his team into beating mine. So crazy, man.
All right, we'll do one more question and then we'll wrap it up because we've almost been on for an hour and a half, which is insane.
Yeah. No, it's fun though. I mean, it's a fun Sunday night.
We'll do one more question. What if Saddiq Bey's stat line from last season is the same as this season?
Okay, are we just talking like points, rebounds, and assists, or are we talking shooting percentage as well in that? Because if all that stays the same, then Saddiq Bey he's a 3-and-D guy, and he needs to get back to that.
Yeah, I think that's what he's saying. Like, look, if he because he struggled a lot last year. Like, he was in a shooting slump.
Yep.
Like his rookie year, it's just like crazy. And I think the reason why it was like that is because people didn't have tape on him. Now they have tape on Saddiq Bey. But if he doesn't really make any improvements, it wouldn't surprise me because you brought in a lot of veterans to take the load off of him. But if it happens, I mean, you kind of have to look at the development coaches not developing them better.
Well, here's the thing with Saddiq Bey, because last year when the shooting woes happened, they completely took him off the floor, right? There was a few games where we were tweeting about it. Like, maybe not you and I like together, but I know that I was tweeting about it. I know other people were tweeting about it. Like, where is Saddiq Bey? Like, Saddiq Bey there'd be those games where he wouldn't be out on the floor in the fourth quarter because he wasn't hitting shots. If Saddiq Bey wants to stay out there, and an improvement he can make is bring something else to the floor where the coaches can't take you off if you're missing your shots. That's what I want to see from Saddiq Bey. But yeah, if his stat lines stay the same and the shooting woes continue, just find something else to help contribute to this team. That's all I want to see from Saddiq Bey.
There goes my camera again. Honestly, man, I gotta get a new webcam. I really do. But yeah, man, this was a lot of fun. Yeah. I've really had a lot of fun with these topics. I feel like topics are getting better as closer as we get to basketball season. And we got a preseason game coming up this Tuesday against the New York Knicks. So we'll get to talk about that.
I'm excited for that.
Next week. So that'll be fun.
Sweet. All right. I think that's a good place to end the podcast. Thank you guys for listening to us. I'm Lance Caprosi. Follow me on Twitter at Lance Caprosi. Follow Anthony if you're not already at Pistons Talk across all social media platforms. I know a handful of my clients do follow Pistons Talk on TikTok. They love to see me. They love to see you. Let's keep it up. And then do us a favor and subscribe to the Pistons Talk podcast. You can subscribe on Spotify, Apple, Google, or wherever you listen to podcasts. After you subscribe, drop a comment, leave a rating, but more importantly, tell a Pistons fan.
Peace.